What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for joining. Now, today we have to talk about a topic that is very important, and I feel like we've been getting more questions than answers, and we've been getting the runaround. So, we're going to start the video on a light note, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So, start off with this video.
The I'm dirty dad! Screaming will get you nowhere.
Which one of you fellers is the real Dirty Dan?
I am?
Alright, so the reason why I showed that video is because that's what I'm calling former Nickelodeon producer Dan Schneider. It's my new nickname for him. This guy pretty much came out with a apology video during an interview in the past week, which, has no value because after years of tormenting young children and putting them through mental stress and torture, he wants to just come out and do like a little 15-minute interview and saying, hey, I'm sorry for everything. But what we need justice. And another thing that I need to know all the people at Nickelodeon that are above Dan Schneider, because he's not the top dog there. What happened all these years? How come all of this was allowed and nobody ever said anything? Nobody ever said, hey, this is wrong. We need to intervene and we need to say, hey man, you're fired. You're out the picture. It was perfectly fine. And the parents, they were perfectly okay with their kids getting exploited for all of these years. And as soon as their kids get rich, famous, and now that they're all grown up, of course, now, people want to speak up. But at the time, it was perfectly okay to exploit their kids for the money. And Nickelodeon, now that the publicity is getting bad for Dan Schneider, they want to throw him under the bus and they want him to be the fall guy, when in reality, we don't even need to go after him. I mean, yes, he needs to get punished and he deserves whatever's coming for him, but we really need to focus on more people at Nickelodeon because there's a lot more going on and we're really getting the runaround. I feel like we should be asking a lot more questions, and Dan Schneider is just the beginning. Also, let me just play this clip for you real quick.
I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation.
Former Nickelodeon producer Dan Schneider issues a video apology following the release of Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. Schneider, who parted ways with the network in 2018, is speaking out in response to the Investigation Discovery series, which recently aired. During a video conversation with iCarly actor Bobby K. Bowman, also known as Boogie, posted on Schneider's official YouTube account, the ex-showrunner says,
Watching over the past 2 nights was very difficult, me facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing and that I regret.
Yeah, okay. So he's pretty much saying that watching it years later, now that people are talking about it and he's getting bad publicity, he regrets it and he thinks that it's bad. But at the time, it was perfectly fine, and exploiting these kids, doing all of these terrible things to these kids was, nothing bad about it at all. And let me see if I can pull up this article for you and show you all the horrible things that he was doing to these kids. You see, we're talking about Ariana Grande, major star, Jeanette McCurdy, famous actress. We have some pictures as well. You see, things like this nature, things of this nature. Nickelodeon stars. Remember, at the time, these girls were about 15, 16 years old. And sure, maybe that's not too young, but they were minors. And you have to also take into consideration the fact that people who are watching Nickelodeon were a lot younger than that as well. Not everybody who was watching was 16 years old. I was watching Nickelodeon when I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. So a lot of the viewers were considerably younger as well. Not everybody was of that age. And, a lot of these images were definitely very weird. I mean, come on, look at that. Do you want a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old looking at this stuff? Amanda Bynes, they had a very, very strange relationship. Dan Schneider literally had Amanda Bynes in a jacuzzi with grown men and strangers alone by herself. Tell me that these things are not weird. And when we were kids, we were just so naive and innocent that we really didn't question these things. So years later, that we're a little older and mature, we have social media to speak out about these things. we're able to actually say, hey, what was going on? Now you're able to just look at this woman. This is Amanda Bynes years later. You're able to see she really has some problems, mental health. And I'm not saying that in a mean way, but you could just look at her and tell, like, a lot of the things that she went through when she was younger, it's a lot of trauma. Look at Jeanette McCurdy. Her and Ariana Grande, they went through the same thing. Look at her standing next to Dan Schneider. You can just tell by the body language. She's very uncomfortable. She doesn't look like she's in a comfortable situation. Look at her face. Look at her eyes. Look through her eyes right now. Not comfortable at all. So I don't want to hear an apology from him and think that everything is okay. I want him to go through justice, and I want people at Nickelodeon above Dan Schneider to go through the same thing, because he's not where it ends. He's just where it begins. All right, and moving on from Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon, top of the Drudge Report, P. Diddy. Guess what? Now they're going through him, and they're rating him. They're going through everything. He's getting hit, and not in the way that he wants to. So they're rating him in New York, LA, Miami for sex trafficking. So this is a big deal. A lot of these things are happening, and this is happening to people that was going on for years, and now these things are just starting to come out. A lot of new revelations. Diddy, Los Angeles, Miami homes raided, and these are just a couple of people who are getting caught. We have to understand that there are many, many people out there who we have no clue about. So we have to stay tuned. We have to make sure we keep asking questions and we hold these people accountable, because if we just forget about this, then they're just gonna throw it under the rug. So make sure that you share this video, you like it, and you subscribe, because we're not gonna let this go, and we're not gonna forget about this, because we're talking about children, we're talking about women, and who knows, young boys, men are involved in this as well. So we have to keep being consistent with this, all right? So I'll see y'all in the next video.